Hey guys, this is Bruce, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the recent NIST ransomware guide. So let's just read through this. I'll keep this brief and straight to the point. All right, so this guide is because there's so many ransomware attacks that have been happening all over the world. Really, it's just the easiest target right now. That's what attackers do. It's what criminals do. They go after the easiest target. The soft targets is what they do. So, for example, they went after the Colonial Pipeline in May 2021 and took it out because it was an easy target. Another one that they went after is schools. They'll go after a public school because schools are pretty loose on the security. And then another one that they recently did that caused death is hospitals. They'll attack hospitals because they know they're going after places that are weak targets. They're always... Governments are getting attacked by other governments usually, or syndicates of like giant syndicates that are funded by government organizations who do it full time, right? But soft targets like hospitals and schools and these pipelines and stuff, they're easy. Like this could be from somebody's basement. So let's just talk about this form here. This is really an informative guide here. I'm just gonna go through this so you guys can know and it's pretty straightforward. So first one of the tips and tactics of ransomware and protecting your systems is to use antivirus software at all times. You'd be surprised how many organizations do not use software, and if they do use antivirus software, it's out of date. It doesn't have the correct signatures on it. A lot of organizations do that. This is the first line of defense. I mean, really, if you get a ransomware attack, the way that they usually infiltrate is with some sort of a malware. If you have some antivirus that's up to date, it can usually catch it. And it should also scan the emails and flash drives so it catches that attack vector. Okay, another thing you want to do is keep your computer fully patched. So let's say that you don't have antivirus software. The virus comes in. The first thing that it does, the first thing that malicious code does, is it goes after your weakest link, which is your unpatched computers. And that you normally like the browser or like Silverlight or something, Adobe or something like that, that's not patched. That's a known vulnerability that the malware will attack and then infiltrate and then download the ransomware. Block access to ransomware sites. This is important because everybody knows where the biggest malware sites are at, so you should definitely block those at either at your proxy or at your firewall or something. There should be like a blacklist that gets rid of these sites so nobody can go to them. Allow only authorized apps. Now they say this like 3 times in 3 different ways that you'll see as I'm reading these, but this is huge because if you only allow authorized apps, your organization is controlling what is going on with those applications. And you know that it's vendor supported, you know that it's already up to date, but if somebody brings something else in, you don't know what's going on with that, and that could be a way that the ransomware will get in. Number 5 is restrict personally owned devices. So like I said, so this is another way that they're kind of reiterating this thing of only allowing authorized stuff in. So if you have an organization that's allowing people to bring their own computers or their own phones or whatever and use those for business, it's a recipe for destruction because you don't know what kind of configuration that they have on there. And normally, average person have no configurations on their personally owned systems. Standard user accounts. Use standard user accounts. What this means is don't allow people like normal users to have administrative privileges. A lot of organizations do this. They'll give their laptops out and then everybody has admin rights because it's their computer, right? Don't do that, because as soon as the malware is in, it infiltrates and it usually runs as the person who is logged in. And if they have administrative privileges, guess what? So does the malware that just got into the system. Avoid using personal apps. Now, see that how they said this 3 different ways. Only use authorized apps and avoid using personal apps. So this is a whitelist right here where you only use what the organization says, and this is like a blacklist. Avoid using personal apps. No personal apps. This is stuff that you can't control. This is stuff that's coming from outside, and you don't know what configuration or what kind of security features are on it. And then beware of unknown sources. Seems kind of obvious, but if it's not vetted by an organization like Microsoft or Google or something like that, and it's from some unknown, of course there's all these devs out there who are trying to do good, but there's more that are trying to do bad, and it's coming from an unknown source. Do not allow these your organization to download from an unknown source. It's a big one. So this last bit here is actually very, very, very important. It's making sure that your organization is good before the ransomware attack even happens. Number one, make sure your organization has an incident response plan. How incident response plan, incident recovery plan. In other words, if in the event that the organization gets an attack, what are they going to do? How are they going to handle it? Who do they call? And then how are you going to recover afterwards? Number two, have a backup and restore especially of your most important assets, right? So if you have important assets, if you have a system that has all your most important files or a database or something like that, you want to have a backup plan, because half the time, even if that system got hacked, even if it had a ransomware attack on it, if you had everything set up beforehand, you had a recovery plan, you could just revert back to before it got hacked. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but it's just like, boom, you're back in business. So make sure you do that. And then a backup, even if the restore doesn't work, you can go to the most recent backup. And if it's backup frequently, you can just go back to next week and then you're good. Keep your contacts. Who do they contact when the ransomware attack occurs? This is really important, because ransomware is not going to happen with your security department, your cybersecurity department. It's going to happen to Joe Schmo who's in accounting down the hall. That guy needs to know. Joe needs to know exactly who to contact in the event that a ransomware happens. And actually, he needs to even know what's happening. Like, he should probably know what not to click on, to be honest with you. So he should probably have some kind of phishing training as well. So that's pretty much it of what they're saying. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's straightforward. I really like this little guide here. And if you are interested in here and on this one, here's the link right here's the site right here. It's on NIST site. If you just go to your favorite search engine and type in NIST ransomware guide, it'll come up as should be number one on the list, unless you're using Yahoo. But anyway, yeah, so this is a pretty good little document. They have got a little video here that goes through the stuff I just said, with some music and stuff like that. So yeah, make sure you do that. Just check that out. Maybe you want to take this whole infograph and put it somewhere in your facility. It's pretty informative, so that's a good one. All right, I got some questions here that people have been asking me. I'm going to go through some of these, and feel free, if you guys jump on this thing, to ask questions live while I'm on now. Let me see here. Had a couple questions that I'm going to go through. Let me see. I get so many questions and comments and people asking me things that I can't keep up with all of them. So week after week, what I do is I'll go through them one by one, and especially I'll do the ones that people ask me over and over again, because I feel like those are really important, and it's killing 5 birds with 1 stone. You know what I mean? So okay, let me see. I've got a question that says, okay, here's a good one. Good morning, watching your videos, and thanks. I'm an IT, information technology professional. I'm in the DMV area. Everybody's in the DMV area, right? That's DC, Maryland, Virginia. Cybersecurity and IT has probably the most jobs in that little concentrated area. It's pretty crazy. I could use consultation. Can we connect? Okay, I get this question a lot, and because of that, I want to ask you guys a question. And I'm going to put a poll out on this one. These are the top questions that I get, and I'm just trying to figure out which one should I cover, because my time is I don't have a lot. I have a full-time job currently, right? If I could ever get to a point where I could just do this and that's it, then that's what I would do. But right now I have a full-time job. I literally do what I'm telling you guys that I teach. The stuff that I teach you is intersected with what I actually do. When you're talking about cyber security compliance, if you're talking about NIST controls, you're talking about CIS controls, if I'm talking about assessing things, like all that stuff I literally do. I'm like somebody from the field who's doing it real time. That's why I just like off the top of my head, because I do this stuff. Anyway, what would you guys really like to see? I'm getting the same kind of questions, especially probably the ones I get the most are these top ones right here. I get these the most. These ones right here. Starting with this one, Security Control Assessor course. I've been getting this so much since the day I started doing ConvoCourses. People want this. I'm working on it right now, and so this time I'm really working on it. I'm actually working on it. Literally writing a whole guide for it. Full resume service. I get so many people asking me to look at their resumes to the point where I no longer do it for free. Either you have to buy a course or something, because I have to filter this out. But I'm thinking about maybe if I rewrite some people's course, like if I charge people and I just go ahead and rewrite it for you, right? Is that something that you'd be interested in? Like if that's something that you would literally pay for, then tell me. Tell me in the comments below. Tell me like which one do you feel that I should do. Another one is one-on-one. I get this one a lot. One-on-one, that's the one I just asked. One-on-one consultation to find, there's two different ones. One is they want me to help them to find an IT job. Like that means I look through their resume, I fix it, and then I actually guide them to where to go and all that kind of stuff, and what career path and all that kind of stuff to try to help them to get an IT job and a cybersecurity job. Is this something that you would actually pay for? Is this something that it would be really helpful and important to you that I should do? If so, maybe that's something I'll consider putting on the site. Another one is one-on-one consultations on ISSO risk management framework work. I get this one a lot, and I've actually helped people with this one, where people have a specific question within their organization for a specific thing, and they want one-on-one consultation for me to help them to get through that particular process. And like, here's the control, here's the problem we're having, what advice do you give? If this is something that you think will be interesting or something I should really provide via ConvoCourses, let me know in the comments below. And another one is cybersecurity contracting work. Don't get this one as often, but every now and then somebody will ask me, hey, could you fly out here and help me to do this or that system? Or can I send you a package? And I actually have done this before too. Can I send you a package and then you write it and you do the risk management framework stuff, and I will, and give it back to us, and then we work out like the hours, how much I'm paid per hour. If this is something that you think will be useful, should I put this on the website? This one I'm really reluctant because, like I said, I have a full-time job and my plate is full with that job. Another one is bundles. I get a lot of people who will buy one of my ISSO courses, and then they'll ask, okay, can I get the documentation one too? Or, hey, I'm about to buy the other one. Would it be better if I just put them together and just sold them as a bundle? And then the other ones, I think that people don't really ask about these ones very rarely, but I think that these ones are in line with what we talk about. And those are dealing with the CIS controls, the PCI controls, and ISO 27001. And the reason why I bring these up is because these, if you know NIST, then these ones actually are fairly easy, because they have a lot of overlapping things that you do. A lot of the methodology and the controls are one-for-one matches, as a matter of fact. So if these are things that you would like us to cover, I'm actually thinking about doing a course on one or all of these things in the future. But if it's something that you think that would be a good idea, please let me know. And put those in maybe in order. Like, go ahead and look at these things, and in order, which ones do you think would be most beneficial? Even if you don't plan on buying, like, just give me your advice on which ones you think, start to finish. Like, number one is full resume, full resume review, or number two is 101, whatever it is, label it one. And if you have another suggestion that I didn't list, please feel free to put it on there. If I can do it, or if I can bring someone in with those expertise, then I will see what I can do. All right. Let me see. I got some more questions here. I get so many questions that I really got to take the time to actually cover some of these things. I got this one last. Another one. Okay, the same one. Do you work with the federal government? Not currently. I did it. Most of my work was with the federal government. So right now I work for the public sector. The private sector. A Fortune 1000 company. So this, or is it 500? I don't know. I work for a large company that's privately owned. But the federal government is really where I got my start, and most of my experiences with the federal government. I started off in the actual military, where I was did physical security for like 5 years, and then I went into computers. Like I was a comm operator is what they call it. I don't know what they call it these days in the Air Force, but I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And in that field at the time, they had us doing all kinds of stuff. Like you didn't just do one thing. You did several things, and you might have several different jobs in the span of your career. I did firewalls in the federal government back when actual military people used to do them. Now it's all contractors. When I left, it was all contractors. I did set up networks from scratch. I maintained networks. That was after I got my CCNA. Back then, CCNA was way easier. I don't know. It's like super. It's all broken into parts and stuff now. I did. What else did I do? I did so many things. I did help desk. I never really did servers in the military, but one of the biggest jobs I had that really put me on this course where I'm doing mostly compliance stuff was called DITSCAP. And DITSCAP was kind of evolved into DIACAP, and then it evolved into Risk Management Framework for DoD, and that's based almost completely on NIST 800 series. And now I got out of the military and been doing contracting work for the federal government still for a number of years, all different branches of the military, all different letter agencies, all kinds of stuff. I did that for many years. So I'm very familiar with how the federal government does things and what they want to see as a whole. Like, when you get into specifics, like what does the Army do? What does the Navy do? What does, this organization do? It gets kind of nuanced, and there's like little changes to like terminology and like little things that they do slightly different. But for the most part, if you know risk management framework, you're going to know how to get through any of these processes. So yeah, to answer your question, I do not currently work for the federal government, but my previous job, like 2 years ago, was for the federal government. So, just recently got out of the federal government, so now I'm working private sector. All right, let me see. What other questions do we have? And actually, the private sector is not that much different. They do things very similar. I would say that they do things a little smarter outside the military. Smarter is not the right word. More efficiently, because they have to be, because the money is not falling off trees there, so they have to really watch what they do in the private sector rather than just kind of shoveling money into a furnace like the military does, like the federal government does. Okay. Let me see. Okay, consultation. Okay, I can't answer that one. I'm just kind of reading through people's questions, so I know a good one to answer. Okay, some of these have already actually hit, so this is good. This is really good. Man, ISSO Cybersecurity Mentor. That's another one that people ask me a lot. Okay, here's a good one. Kind of already answered this one, but I'll hit this one. So they asked, what did you do in the military? I'm active duty Navy electrician. I get out next month and will convert to IT and in the reserves to help get into cyber. That's a really smart idea. Really, really smart idea, because IT is really hot. So in the military, what I did was, first of all, I was in the Air Force, and my first job was physical security. I was a security specialist, where I was like a weapon specialist. I knew, like, they trained us proficiently on like 5 or 6 different weapons, and I trained with the Army, with the Marines, and we learned physical security, personnel security, all aspects of physical security, and we trained constantly. And then from there, I went into law enforcement. So I was a security police officer for some time, going through the U.S. Code of Military Justice and all that kind of stuff. And then I cross-trained into computer operator, where I did firewalls, I did networking, I did help desk, for a while I was doing crypto. That was crazy. Let me see what else. I was a message technician. They just had us jumping all over the place, right? And it was a great way to learn at the time. So when I got out, and then also, of course, I did security compliance, which is now called risk management framework. So when I got out, I was really well rounded. I knew Unix, I knew Linux, I knew Windows, I knew networking. I had some idea of how to handle crypto. I knew how to crypto keys. I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. Crypto keys. Man, I was really well rounded. So then the main things that I think helped me when I got out, so this is to help you out. The main things that I learned was that really helped me, that stuck with me even to this day, was networking. Like, the more you know about networking, TCP/IP, the 3-way handshake, how it actually works, the better you can troubleshoot it. And then you can go into different things. Like, if you know networking, you can go full on into network engineering. You can go full on into, it helps you with cybersecurity, actually, because a lot of things are tied in with networking. It also helps you with, if you want to go into cybersecurity analysis that goes deeper into the actual packets of the TCP/IP connections. So that was one of the biggest things I learned, was networking. So once you get out, and if you go into computers, if you go into your unit and you get into computers, I would highly recommend going deeper into networking. So that was a big one. Troubleshooting, help desk troubleshooting was also really helpful, and the reason why is because it teaches you the fundamental things that you should do to logically break down and fix almost any system. So you start to eliminate all the different things that could be a problem until you get to the actual problem. And that was one of the main, troubleshooting was like one of the best things I learned. And then, of course, security compliance was a big one. It's a specialization. So that one, once I learned that, man, I had no idea how valuable it was until I got out of the military. And then I was so hardcore about doing Linux or Unix or something like that. And I did it. I was a field technician for a year, 2 years or something. And to be honest, they didn't pay me a lot. They had me flying all over the damn planet Earth, and I had little kids. And then they didn't want to train me. Like, they had a specialized system and they didn't want to train anybody. I was like, what kind of job is this? And this is a huge company, by the way. I'm like, what? I was working for the Army, and we were contractors doing all this stuff. It's like, dude, like, what is going on here? And then it got so bad, I actually left and went back into security compliance. So, man, just yes, that's a great idea that you're going into computers, because that field is really hot right now, man. I'm telling you, there's so many jobs out there. If people are telling you there's no jobs, man, they must not be in IT, because there's a ton of jobs. And if they are in IT, they're not doing their resume right if they can't find work. I mean, it's so many. It's just crazy. We have too much work, to be honest with you. Let me see. Okay, here's one. This is a good one. Ooh, okay, this is a really good one. Somebody said, okay, I want to show this one on the screen. This is a good one that I don't necessarily agree with. Well, 50-50. 50-50. So they said here that it's like a little bit, I don't know why it's like, anyway, I'll just read it. They're saying ISSOs should not be writing SSPs, that's the system security plans. They should be reviewing and validating against regulation with the engineers, developers, system owners. ISSOs, this is not your system. IT is theirs, and they know it better than you. Okay, so, what do I think about this? So it really depends on the job, right? It really depends on the job, because I've been an ISSO where I was super technical, and I had to know, for example, the security configuration of the servers. And I was the guy who was putting the security configurations on the server, so I knew how secure the servers were. I knew exactly what policies and stuff were on the system. It depends on the actual requirements of the position. If you're an ISSO that's doing some technical work, then, and I was basically working with a system administrator. I wasn't the system administrator, but I was going through each one of all the controls and making sure that all of the line items, all the, CCIs were on the actual system. So in that case, when I wrote the system security plan, I actually, I knew what was on there. So I could do that part. Now, I think what they could have said better here is that when you write the system security plan, essentially you're going to the subject matter experts. Like if you have to put in the firewall and some kind of description of the firewall and what it does and what configuration, you have to go to the SMEs, the subject matter experts of the firewall. You got to go to them and tell, hey, we need this for the system security plan. So in that case, yes, you would go talk to them, and then they would maybe write you a little blurb, and then you would maybe rewrite it, make it a little bit better, take out some of the jargon and stuff, and then maybe put their network diagram in there that shows the firewall breakout and all that kind of stuff. You're kind of still writing it, right? You're just taking some of their expertise and you're putting it in there, and then you're letting it flow. So yeah, you want to go to the developers. You're not the developer. If they're developers there, you would get the information from them. If there's engineers who are doing the whole network diagram stuff, if you're talking to the system owner, you might want to know something about how the operators do their work. Like you have to pull from all these different places, but you're putting all that stuff into play. You're making sure that all that stuff is put together. So that might be what they're talking about. But there are some pieces of it that you have to articulate, because they're not, for example, the developers aren't going to know necessarily, they're not necessarily going to know exactly what kind of say auditing controls you're looking for. So you would work with them and say, look, this application, thank you for giving me a description of it. Does it do auditing? And they'll say, what do you mean? It's been audited before. No, you have to explain it to them. What I mean is, does it collect logs? Are there event logs for this application? And they'll, oh yeah. It does this X, Y, and Z. It does syslog. It sends it to port 514 or whatever, right? Through Linux, whatever. And then you would take, basically you're still writing it, because you are the expert. Like you know exactly what the NIST is asking for that particular control, for AU control 2 or whatever it is. And then AU 3 is breaking down like, okay, does it have timestamps? Does your event log have timestamps for this application? Does it tell you what the event is? Does it tell you, does it have it's asked specifically saying, does it have these things in the log? So I would say, number one, it depends on what position you have, right? Because there's probably ISSOs that don't write system security plans at all or don't have to. But at the same time, you're the one putting it all together, and you're the subject matter expert that's going to know the nuances and all the details that are in the NIST system security that are required to explain that control and how effective that control is, or that the control is not effective. So you are still writing the system security plan, but really it depends on the position. So, okay, let me see. Somebody's asking questions here. Hey, Smooth Virus and Kurt Diesel. Somebody said definitely bundles. Okay, noted. Quick question. When you got out, did you have any issues finding work on the civilian side? So what they're referring to, for those who might not know what he's talking about, is when I got out of the military. So this is another one. It's a question I get a lot. Like, what do I do? How do I transition? What's going on? So when I got out, there was something called Transition Assistant Program. And what they did was they sat us down for half a day or something like that. And they start breaking down some of the stuff that I teach, actually, which is resume stuff. And they start talking about how the military uses certain jargon. And you have to speak a different language when you're going from military to civilian, right? So a half a day, and they start telling us, like, here's how you write an effective bullet statement for your resume. Here's what you want to put in there. Here's the keywords you want. Back then it wasn't really keywords. So nowadays this was a long time ago. So anyway, so they broke down how to do a resume. I put all that stuff in there, and I've had really good experience. So I had no problem at all. When I put my resume out, I wasn't even out of the military yet. Check this out. I wasn't even out of the military yet. I hadn't even taken my terminal leave yet. I put my resume out there. And the reason why I knew that I needed to start immediately and get my stuff together was because somebody had already done this. This other airman had already got out of the military, and he got a CISSP and was making like 80, right? And we were like, what? He was making 80 what? 80 pesos? $80, $80,000. We were like, what? $80,000. So all of us started saying, should I bail ship? Like, they start paying a lot, right? And you got to remember, like, we're airmen, or a sergeant is only making at the time, I don't know, 30,000, maybe 27,000, I don't know. So 80,000 is a crazy amount. Like, he got a CISSP, got out, and then was working in Seattle for 80,000. And we were like, damn. So I just followed, all these other guys getting out. I did the same thing. I had all my certifications before I got out. I put all that stuff on my resume. I put my resume on like Monster and like they didn't have LinkedIn back then, but like Monster and some other, I can't remember what it was back then, but put it out there and got a job off. Like, so many people were contacting me, got a job offer, and they flew me out to another state from California to Colorado, and I did an interview, right? And had a couple of other somebody tried to do the same thing, but after this interview, I basically got the job. So this was before I got out of the military. So I just took terminal leave. Before I took terminal leave, I'd flown out there, and I got the interview. They offered me the job, and so I did. I found work on the civilian side. I did not have issues because my resume was good. Because I went through that transition program, I put all my language I transferred from, all the military jargon to what you would say instead of saying, I don't know I've been out so long. Team lead. Oh my god. Man, help me out here. Flight, instead of saying flight sergeant. I helped direct my flight sergeant to the proper, unit or something like that, right? You don't use that kind of language. Nobody in the civilian world uses flight sergeant or unit or any of that. So you got to say the proper words, like manager, right? A sergeant is your manager. You would say manager, or or supervisor or something. You wouldn't say unit. You'd say, I don't know, you probably switch it up to department. Are you lying? No, you're just using, you're translating one thing to another so that they don't get confused. Civilians are going to read all your MOS and AFSC and your all that jargon, and flight team lead. They're not going to know what in the hell you're talking about. They don't know what an infantry is. They don't know what a battalion is. They don't know what a wing, none of that. So you got to put it in their language, right? As much as possible. There's some things that don't really translate, but as much as possible, you want to translate it. And I did that, put it in my resume, had no problems going into the civilian work because I was really prepared. I'd been preparing for like a year out because I knew I was going to get out. So, I was like 80% sure I was going to get out. Okay, let me see. I got another question here. Smooth Virus says, I wrote a system security plan for the federal government, and that's how they did it. I was a system owner, and the ISSO office reviewed it. Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess it depends. I've been in different positions. So the question is, does the ISSO write the system security plan? Well, I can tell you, I've been in several different positions. My very first one, when I was an information system security officer, at the time they called it an information security officer, right? Way back in the day. And I wrote it from scratch. Start to finish, I wrote all of it. There were some things I had to check with other people. But now keep in mind, in that position, I was in a secure environment. I was in a SCIF, and we didn't have... it was different. You didn't have a firewall guy. It didn't go outside of our, it had its own secure domain, right? So we did have a device that made it so that your classified stuff had to get downgraded to another classification. We had that, and that was a really hard one. It was called a guard. I can't remember, anyway. So yeah, this device, and that part, like, I had to figure out like who's the point of contact to get information on that system, and there was different parts of it that had to gather the information and put it in but I wrote it from start to finish. I wrote it. I did have to refer to other people who were subject matter experts on it, but that position is a secure environment where we were dealing with TSSCI material. Everything was inside there. I was a messaging technician. I was a subject matter expert. I knew the auditing system. I knew DMS system. I knew how they routed each other and stuff like that. So if I had to consult with somebody and I didn't know the answer, I would just refer to either my supervisor, the contractor that was there, or I would talk to my coworkers who had been there longer than me to put it all together. So, and then at the end of it, the people who reviewed it were the actual assessors reviewed it. So that's one position, all right, where I wrote it. Another one, when I got out of the military, I was also a information system security officer, and basically we had program management systems. We had all of these different weapon systems and different research systems, and they would basically give an information system security officer like myself, I get two systems. And I was writing it. Now, this was, in this case, I didn't even see the system, which I thought was weird. I was used to writing it because I was sitting there and I knew all about it. Like, that was my job as an operator. And then they threw me in this information security officer job. And then I just happened to know most of that stuff because I'd been doing it for 8 months or a year or something. This other job as a contractor was different. So in this case, I had never even seen the system yet. And I was writing the plan for it. So obviously I have to refer every part of it. I had to refer to other people. I had to refer to the people out in the field, the network guys who are managing it, the any kind of firewall people. Like, I had to keep grabbing all this information and putting it all together. And then my supervisor, the information security manager, he would review it, send it back to me. Hey, what about this? What about that? And then we would just go back and forth until it was good between him and I. And then he would send it to the next level. and then until it was good enough to be go through the accreditation process and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually we would do like a self-assessment, and we'd fly out to the different sites and make sure that the security features were on there. It depends on the job, right? I'm trying to think of one where I didn't write anything. And I was just reviewing it. And I can't think of any. And I've not been in a position where I wasn't writing one. I've been in a position where I was reviewing them. Now, I've done that before, where somebody else wrote it and then I was reviewing it. But normally that was another information system security officer. I'm just telling you my experience, right? It's kind of anecdotal. I'm not saying that this is everybody. This is just my experience. And it sounds like Smooth Virus. He's saying it. Yeah, somebody else. It wasn't the information security officer reviewed it, but the system owner wrote it. Which, okay, yeah, I guess it just depends on the actual organization and stuff, and the job title or what you're supposed to do. But I guess it can go either way. That's really interesting that you guys are saying that somebody else writes it. I mean, that would actually make sense that the system owner wrote it, to be honest with you. It really would make sense, because a lot of times as the ISSO, I'm kind of scrambling to get that stuff done because I have to rely on them to give me the information, and then I'm putting it, and then I'll go back and say, well, okay, what about, like I said, what about the auditing, the logging, like how's the logging getting done? And then we're like, oh, okay, let me put that in there. Oh, and how about the access control? Do you guys have this access control mechanism? Do you guys have multi-factor authentication? What do you mean? I mean, do you guys have biometric? Do you have this? Do you have that? Oh, yeah. Of course, we have this. We have that. We have key cards. We have, So I'm like basically going back and forth sometimes with them and putting it all down. Sometimes they'll give me like a couple paragraphs, and then I'll work with it. So let me see if there's any other questions here. Love USMC says, hey Bruce, I have a top secret clearance and I passed the security plus, I think they mean plus, security plus, along with taking a risk management class, and I'm looking to be a security control assessor. I think I already answered this one. Anyway, congratulations on that one. I think I already answered that one. Here's another one about phone consultations. I tell you, I get these so often. Phone consultations. Yeah. Like I said in the very beginning of this, if you guys are interested in this, is something that you would think I should do, there's something I would consider in the future when I have a lot more time on my hands to do one-on-one consultations. It will not be cheap. Let me see here. Somebody said, so what if you got a OSCP, which is like the most elite hacking certification, an AWS, a Red Hat certified system administrator, I think, but no real world experience. Should I try for a help desk job or go straight to a SOC position? I would try for both. That's what I would do. If I had all the certifications and I knew I was good for a SOC position, but I know that they need experience, I would try for both. Like there's nothing to say, what's the rule against that? Like if it was me, I would try for the help desk position, an entry level help position, and an entry-level SOC position. Either one is going to help you to get some experience under your belt. Of course, the SOC position would be the best one. And if you have an OSCP, somebody's going to try to pick you up if you have that one. That's a big one. That's a professional or expert level certification. It's an advanced certification. It's not easy. So, yeah. And the other one, that Red Hat, I'm not sure how high the Red Hat certified SA is, but that one you should also be able to get your foot in the door. And you don't have to even do a SOC position. Just putting your resume out there, and then tell them the truth, saying, "Look, I've done this in labs, and I understand it You just explain to them exactly what's going on. And what you could also do, I would highly encourage you to do if you have no experience, is volunteer your time. If you have a job, like if you work in the service industry or something, follow the security guy around. Like when the guy who's setting up the routers, the access points in your facility, go to that guy and be like, hey man, I'm trying to get in this career field. How can I get experience? Can I work with you? Can you show me the ropes? Like on your off time, like you see this guy around and start asking him questions like a geek, like follow him around like he's a celebrity and then start asking him questions. A lot of those guys, they're anxious to talk to you. They'll talk, at the very least, you'll learn something. But at the most, they'll be like, yeah, sure, come on, man. Here's how you do this. Okay, you want to try this command? All right, try this. Type this in. Who knows? You might. I remember the first time I was in the military. I was a security forces, like I said, I was a weapons specialist. I was obsessed with technology and IT. At the time, it was like the 90s, so like the 90s was when the internet was blowing up and the PC revolution was going crazy. It already blown up several times over and stuff, and then Windows was like solidifying their legacy and battling with Mac. I wanted to be in that world. I wanted to be a part of it. So I was going to cross-train. And I went to my unit and I was like, hey, I want to cross-train into this other field. Like, I'm ready to cross-train. And my supervisor was like, no, you can't. Like, I was like, why? He says, this is a critical field. They're not going to allow you to cross-train. And I'm like, what if I just get out? You know what I mean? Why would they do that? Anyway, so I went directly to, we had something called a flight support center, and they would help airmen transition or whatever, or retake the ASVAB or whatever you're going to do. So I went there and I asked them, I said, look, I'm a security forces and I really want to transfer. I want to transition, cross-train is what we call it, into computers. Like, do you have any kind of fields open? My supervisor told me it's not possible because this field is hurting and they need people, so they're not going to allow people. And he said, no, that's not true, because yes, it's true that your field is hurting as a security forces person or security policeman, but there's other fields that are hurting even more. And he gave me this huge list of fields that were hurting more. It was like electricians and like electronics and like computer operator, and then a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was really cool. I was like, oh man. I said, well, which one, can I apply for? He said, just apply for all of them. All the ones you want, just apply for all of them. And I did. I applied for them, and it turned out, like the guy said, that this field was in more demand than the one that I was in. And the point is, if you don't ask, how will you ever know? Like, how will you know if you can't? Like, people are telling, how will you know if you do not ask? And then on top of that, what I did when I knew that I was going to go into computers was I went to the networking center, the NOC. I went to the network operating center on base, and I went right to the help desk. I was a cop. I had my weapon on me and everything. I had a beret. I had a weapon on me. I walked in there and I said, hey, I'm on duty right now, but I just wanted to ask you guys about this job. Like, what do you do from day to day? And where are there programmers here? What I was thinking about going into programming. Like, what do you guys do, right? And the airman stood up and he said, oh yeah, man, no problem. Like, you're gonna cross train into this? And I said, yeah, I'm trying to. And he says, well, and he started pointing out stuff. Like, he's like, so this right here, you're on the help desk, and normally what we do is we field tickets, right? And the programmers, they don't even work here. They work somewhere else, somewhere across base. They don't do the stuff we do, right? He started breaking everything down and how the structure was. And if I had more time, that dude would start teaching me right there on the spot. I'm telling you, he was open to it. Well, I don't know if he would have gave me experience or anything like that and let me start messing around typing on stuff. But in my unit, actually, as a security police officer, we had computers that we needed to do the blotters and needed to take reports in and stuff like that. We would train the military, the U.S. Air Force would internally train the security police to actually do those jobs, because that security police officer was knew what the security unit needed. So they would take one guy and they call them a work group managers. And that where I don't know what they call it nowadays, but it's basically a help desk, a local help desk guy that they took from security, and then they made from security police officers, and then they made that person an actual working on fixing people's hard drives or fixing the printers, and that was their full-time job. And so you could, as a security police officer, I could apply for that job and I could do that, and that would have given me all kinds of experience, right? And the guy who did that, I knew that guy personally. So that guy was a friend of mine. So I could have talked to that guy, and actually on occasion I did. I started asking him about Windows and how you fix stuff. And yeah, so you got to ask. That's the whole point. Like, that's what I'm getting at here. Ask. At wherever you work, just ask. It doesn't hurt. I mean, the worst they can say is, nah, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you or something, you know. But normally they're going to be open and start talking to you and showing you stuff. They might even allow you to actually get some experience and sit down with you on your off time, right? When you're not doing your service industry job or whatever you do. Come in and then sit right beside you, and then you can actually start getting a little bit of experience just like that. And Smooth Virus says, I'm sure that kind of attitude is less common today. Computers are everywhere now. Yeah, maybe. Let me see. That's always the answer. No computers are reserved for elite students. Blah blah blah. That's what got me into high school. Wound up teaching myself. And this was in the 80s. Holy crap, the 80s. Whoa, you must be Gen X, man. Like myself. Okay, let me see. See if I have time for... Okay, I think that's it, guys, for this week. Let me see one more question. Smooth Virus says, just find the nerds who love tech and ask them. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. He says, we respect people that have a passion and a hunger. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I tell you what, like, anytime I talk to people who really want to know and are willing to listen about IT, yeah, I always like to tell them and sit down and explain things to them and things like that. You know, some nerds, some of the real technical guys really can't teach at all. I don't know if you noticed that, Smooth Virus, but some of them can't teach. A lot of IT guys can't teach it at all. They can't explain anything. They can be really good at stuff, but can't teach at all. Like, they cannot shift gears. Like, it's always like super tech head mode, and they can't teach. They use all kind of, but thing is, you never know unless you ask. I would ask, especially if I had no experience at all and I really want to get in this field. I would totally ask to figure out what's going on and get that experience. You can even ask HR. I mean, sometimes they'll have positions that they'll transfer you into because they want to retain you. They want to keep you around. And so let's say you're a director at Chipotle, right? And Chipotle and you want to be an IT guy. Chipotle might have a field tech that goes from place to place fixing the PCI machines, all the card readers and stuff. You never know, like, if unless you ask and then get that experience. Smooth Virus says, definitely Gen X. Yep, same here, man. Yeah, don't ask the old Unix admins if they're boomers and have beards. There's certain groups of geeks that you really can't ask questions, and Unix guys are one of them. They were the worst, man. Holy crap, they were horrible, most of them. Like, they expected you to have a certain level of experience before you even talk to them. Like, if you asked the wrong question, they would just nuke you, right? Or just ignore you or something. I don't know. Like, they were not nice. Who are some other people who I didn't like talking to? The network guys. The network guys were, I don't want to say it, man. I don't want to get banned on you. Those guys were, holy crap. Some of those guys were, man, there were certain fields that were specialized, and they knew it was specialized at the time. Like, not anymore maybe, but at the time it was, network guys were like very specialized. Nobody bothered them. Nobody understood it. So only very few people got to actually do that job. And I actually got to work on it, but I had to be like deployed in a war zone to do it. That's how crazy it was. But on the base, yeah, you weren't touching a router or a switch. And those guys knew they were specialized, so you couldn't even ask them questions. Like, it was so ridiculous. You had like maybe 4 dudes that were doing it, and they knew it really well, and they got sent to all the Cisco courses, and they got, like I said, it's probably different now, but for me, it was the network guys back then in the 90s, and then the Unix guys. Man, those guys, holy crap, I agree with you with that one. And I'm trying to think of another one that were not cool to talk to. It still doesn't hurt to ask, though. Just ask. Yeah, network engineer guys, holy crap, man. Telling you, those guys, wow. If you happen to be a network engineer guy, then I got one finger I want to show you on this hand. System admins were a mixed bag. Some of those guys were really cool, you know. Some of them like are empire builders who don't want to tell anybody anything because they want to secure their job by knowing everything and not sharing any information at all. But for the most part, it's a mixed bag. There's some really cool system administrators that I met, because those guys were usually a little bit more mature. Because you already had to know quite a bit to get to that level, and the work that they were doing was pretty important, and they have to work with people sometimes. So they don't, unlike the network engineers, network guys didn't have to talk to anyone. So they were just in a freaking closet, and they were the only ones who knew this stuff, and so they were like really shut-ins. For a while, I wasn't even allowed to contact the hardware team. That was nuts. Wow, you were doing system administrator and you couldn't contact the hardware team. And I know hardware for backwards and forwards. Yeah, man, there's a little bit of politics in IT. We're just talking about some of the politics in IT that goes on, and it's probably, I don't know if it's different now, but like now I'm a consultant. It's totally different, right? It's a bunch of people who are specialized in a bunch of things. They're professionals that have been doing this field for a long time. And we have to have a certain level of maturity to do this job, because you're dealing with difficult customers who are paying a lot of money, and you just really have to be on your A game all the time. We have to rely on one another. So there's none of this infighting kind of like empire building type stuff going on, because if you do that, you're going to get fired where I'm at right now. Consultation is totally different. That's what I'm doing now. Let me see. I had to work with people every single day. I briefed General Clapper. Once. He's on TV all the time. Holy crap, that's insane. Yeah, the system administrators, like, they had to have a certain level of maturity that the network guys didn't really have to have. Because the network guys, they didn't really talk to people much. And they were very specialized. But the system administrators, they had to talk to almost everybody, because they were talking to the help desk if stuff wasn't working, when the clients aren't connecting to the servers, or they have to talk to the network guys if the network was down. They have to talk to the managers because they're doing Active Directory, and the Active Directory is not working that day, and the general's pissed off or whatever, and why he wants to know why this is happening. So you got to talk to the managers. You got to talk to the C-level people. Like, they're in the center of the server guys are in the middle of everything. So they're usually like more mature and have to do briefings and have to, break up their time and stuff like that. I set up the Palm Pilots for the cleanse back in the day too. What the hell? That's wild. Palm Pilots. I remember those. Damn, that takes me back. Palm Pilots. Let me see. I want to see what a Palm Pilot looks like. I can't remember. What a Palm Pilot. Palm Pilot. I know you remember. So if you're this, you're really dating yourself, because if you know all this, then you've seen the floppy drives and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's the Palm Pilot. Wow, that thing was cutting edge. Look at it now. Look at this thing. Oh my goodness. So you're from my era, so you know what this is. floppy disk. You'll know what this is right here. Look at that. You know what this is? This is some retro tech right here. I was doing an assessment not too long ago, and we were walking around this facility, and I saw one. I saw one of, which one did I see? I think I saw one of these. 3 1/4. Is that what they were called? I can't even remember anymore. I saw one of these. Yeah, 3 1/2. These ones right here, and I'm walking with this other cybersecurity person, and she's pretty young. And I said, "Whoa, look at those! Those are floppy disks, you know." And she said, "Wow, those are before I was even born." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's wild, man." Anyway, okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate everybody. Thanks, Smooth Virus. Enjoyed talking to you. He says, "Oh, I remember the 5 1/4 floppies. Use those on my Compact Desk Pro." Do you remember having to load Windows with those floppy disks with those over there? You remember, like, it was like 15 of them to load Windows 95 or something? I think I might have some of those still. You had, like, I don't know, like 30 disks, and you had to feed each one by one. Damn. Man, I'm really dating myself now. Okay, anyway. Yep, that's it. Wow, good times. I'm old enough to remember the floppy drives on the C64. That's before my time. And those things were noisy as hell. Yeah, the Commodore 64? Yeah, Win.exe. Yep, man, I remember that, man. And then the Windows 95, the sound that it made when it booted up. And man, I actually used to like Windows 95. Turns out it is a really horrible operating system. I mean, it's really, really bad. I can't believe how bad it is. Then they had Windows 98, and that was a little bit more secure. Man, damn. Yeah, Windows 98, and then Windows NT. Windows 98 was one of my favorites, but it's also not very secure either. Okay, now seriously, I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate everybody. I'm out of here. See you next